The Hollow Dream. The story which follows is the story of one man's addiction to heroin. A man among many. A man for us without identity. An anonymous man. It's the story as he told it in his own words and in its many facets here in Hong Kong, only the other day, to Patricia Penn.
This was 10 years ago, I think. It happened that the flat I stayed in Castle Peak Road, I have one friend of mine staying in the same flat. I was a teacher at that time. During the evening, when I was doing my correctings, some evening I felt very tired, and I came out of my room and stretched myself. That friend of mine asked me whether I feel very tired or not. So he gave me a cigarette. He said, "This cigarette will do you good." So I took that cigarette and smoked it, and it gave me a very good effect. Made me relax, made me feel properly good, and I didn't feel tired at all. I asked him, "What cigarette did you give me?" He said, "Well, you don't mind knowing the name of it. I just give you this. If you want another one, you may ask me for it." Well, some other evening when I felt very tired, I asked for the cigarette again. So afterward, I found out that he had put something in the cigarette, and I asked him about it. I didn't know the name of heroin at that time. Even the policeman and the custom officer, if they see heroin at that time, they didn't know anything about it. Many of the smugglers told the custom officer that those are powder for headaches, and they believed so. So I had no idea that this white powder would give me such damage at that time.
You're listening to the beginning of the very personal story of a man now in his late 40s, a university graduate, an officer during the war in the Chinese army, and then, until he became addicted to heroin, a teacher in Hong Kong. He's tall and very lean. I would call him a handsome man. His father was Chinese, and his mother, who is still alive, is an English woman. His young Chinese wife works in a factory, and she's at present the family breadwinner. They have 4 small daughters, and the youngest of them was born only 3 months ago. His identity is known only to his doctors, to welfare workers, and to myself. 10 years have passed since he took that first fatal heroin cigarette. And in those 10 years, this man has been in and out of hospital 3 times. 3 times he's been successfully withdrawn from the drug, and 3 times he's fallen back into his old ways. Within weeks of his discharge from the drug addiction center at Castle Peak, just a year ago, he was back on the drug. Since then, he's gone through the agonizing experience of withdrawing himself from heroin alone here in this room. Today, he stands balanced precariously between the life that he's trying to reject, a life of despair and hollow dreams leading to almost certain ruin, and the life which can only be his if society takes him to itself again, and if he, in his turn, stands up to the stresses of that society. As I talk to him here, I cannot be sure that he's no longer smoking, that he has not again relapsed. Today, the family lives in this hut on a crowded hillside in one of Hong Kong's poorest squatter areas. In 1962, in Typhoon Wanda, it was destroyed. Here, all around, there's squalor and poverty of the meanest kind. Filth abounds everywhere, making the laughter of children at play the more startling, the more poignant, the more significant, perhaps. The occasional scream of jet aircraft passing overhead provide a social commentary of their own. This home is a room 6 foot by 6, and the children sleep on the floor at night. And yet, in this terrible world of shacks and hovels, it presents an oasis of light and simple hospitality. We sit on the wooden bed with the recording machine between us and drink tea and talk while the children sit wide-eyed on the floor watching the recorder go round. Behind Hong Kong's problem of heroin, there lies the long Chinese tradition of opium smoking. This man, like so many others here, was smoking opium long before he was given that first drag of heroin. Between friends and businessmen in China, the opium pipe was as common as the glass of liquor or the cigarette in the West today, and more difficult to refuse. Opium was sold legally in Hong Kong under a government monopoly until the end of the Second World War, and there were many who indulged in smoking it much as you or I might smoke cigarettes or drink in a moderate sort of way, though there were those, of course, who took opium in excess. At the end of the war, opium was listed in the colony as a dangerous drug, and tighter control was imposed on it here and the world over. In Hong Kong, the police campaign against the drug intensified, and the divans and the traffic went underground. But the paraphernalia the opium smoker needs is cumbersome and difficult to conceal. The smell of burning opium is strong and distinctive. The opium clientele was reduced to those who could afford the rising costs. It was when the first waves of immigrants began to arrive from North China in the late 40s that the narcotics traffic in Hong Kong got its first significant shot in the arm. The Japanese had introduced the heroin habit to wartime China and had taught these people to refine the deadly white powder from raw opium and from morphine. The poorer opium smokers, unaware of the terrible dangers of the new drug, turned to it readily. It was so much more convenient to smoke, so much easier to smuggle, and thus so much cheaper, and paradoxically so much, much more powerful than opium, and so much more addicting. The drugs streamed in from Thailand, Laos, and Burma, and the little coloured packets of white powder found their way in ever-growing quantities onto the streets of Hong Kong. No one knows today just how many of our 3.5 million or so people smoke heroin. Many of these people, unlike this man, are inarticulate in the English language, for the highest rate of known addiction, understandably, is among the lower income groups, the people on whom the pressures of life are heaviest and for whom the rewards are least, the coolies, the hawkers, the factory workers, and the unemployed. The people for whom the end of the day means no more, perhaps, than a crowded bed space in some miserable tenement slum. There are many more men who smoke heroin, incidentally, than there are women. The truth of an addict's words is always open to doubt, if he is still on the drug. Throughout my meetings with this man, I have endeavored to get at the truth, and I believe that what he says is what he believes to be true. His comments are, of course, subjective and at times perhaps inaccurate and contradictory. But he's as near as we can hope to get to the heart of the matter. He may not, in Hong Kong, be a typical addict. He is, after all, an educated man. But the effect of heroin on his life and on his family is wholly typical. And it demonstrates that whatever the force that drives a man to that first cigarette, the relief that it offers him is real and insidious.
Physically, you feel more active, more strong, and you feel that you have a lot of energy. Actually, if you are a coolie, if you can carry 100 pounds, after 3 or 4 sniffs of the heroin, you can carry more than 100 pounds. And spiritually, you think more happier. And you think that you have hope. And you feel good after having 3 or 4 snips.
How long did it take you personally to become addicted?
I did not take it continuously every day. I just took it occasionally when I felt tired, because it was very convenient for me to ask a cigarette in my home, because there was one who was addicted at that time. But afterward, he invited me over to his room every day. So I think I only took continuously once a day at that time for about 20-something days. And then suddenly, when one day I didn't take it, I went back to school to teach. And I felt very bad that evening. I felt very sick. I coughed, my stomach ached. I thought at that time that I was having a cold. So I asked my mother whether I should go back and rest or not. She said, all right, you go back and I take over your lesson. So I went back and I felt worse. When the time dragged on, I felt worse. So I thought I must go out and see the doctor. So I went to see the doctor. I had no... the doctor said, you are not sick. So I thought of this kind of drug. Maybe I have been addicted. So I went to a friend of mine. That was the midnight. I went to see a friend of mine at Yau Ma Ti, and he gave me this drug. And after I smoked it, I felt all right. So it was only 20-something days having the drug, and I became addicted.
And then you realized that you were addicted.
Yes.
Now, were you very frightened about this? How did you feel?
I felt very bad at that time, but I didn't tell my mother. That was the worst thing that I did before. I should have told her. I should have asked for a leave. I just kept the secret by myself and kept on smoking it without giving anybody's notice and without going to the doctor. I became worse and worse.
It didn't occur to you that you might be able to get help. You didn't try to do anything about it.
I was so scared at that time that my mother knew the fact that would break her heart, and I just kept the secret by myself. That's all.
And you thought
I wanted to get rid of it. I asked for 3 days leave. I asked for a week holiday, but I couldn't do anything about it. In fact, at that time, I have no idea of going to the doctor. An education people like myself, I thought at that time that it was a shame of myself to have this kind of bad habit. So I just kept the secret by myself without, letting anybody know. I thought that in some time in the future, I could do something about it. That was my thinking at that time.
There are several methods of taking heroin. This man chased the dragon for 3 years. That is, heated the powder on a piece of tin foil and inhaled the fumes into his mouth through a tube. When this method became too powerful for him, he switched to the somewhat milder ACAC method, which involves impregnating a cigarette with the powder and literally smoking it. Small red pills can be smoked or taken orally. Injection direct into the bloodstream has the most powerful and immediate result of all, and there are those who say that this specially convenient method of application is gaining popularity here. The reasons for taking to heroin are many and varied. That it's readily available at as little as $1 Hong Kong a packet must be one important factor. Others are the personality of the victim, which may dispose him to this kind of outlet. He may take it to relieve depression or physical pain in a community where medical treatment is sometimes difficult to come by. He may do it for fun, out of curiosity, or from a belief in the aphrodisiac qualities of heroin.
It only can prolong the action. But in my experience, it doesn't give me a good feeling when I'm having my sexual life. It only prolongs the action. Mm-hmm. It just gives you no feeling. You don't feel anything. Mm-hmm. I think it's good in the female side, but it's really not good in the male side.
What you mean is that it pleases the woman, because
it pleases the woman to prolong the
man.
act, but in the male, I don't think they have any good feeling, because they are numb. After you are addicted, you are no good of any sexual performance. You have no desire at all. Most of the addicts can tell you that. Most of them, they don't realize at first, but after a long time of addiction, they realize that, and they... But it's very funny, you know. The addicts wants to tell this to the people that who are not addicted. They will tell them false story of well, you try 1 or 2 puffs of it and it will give you such satisfaction that you have never experienced before. But this is only fooling them.
Life is very difficult in Hong Kong.
Yes.
For many people. Do you think that this had any bearing on you continuing to take drugs?
I don't think so.
You have had yourself quite a difficult time, I think.
Yes, but I had no difficult times before I took the drug. I think I could manage myself if I didn't get into this kind of bad habit. But I did have a lot of hard times after having the drug, because I always think, I mean, that if I'm having the drugs, it's not fair to me to get any work. I feel inferior. I feel that I must disappoint my employer. So I keep staying home, doing odd jobs, without asking a job for myself.
Mm-hmm. This is one of your difficulties now.
Yes, yes.
The dependence of an addict on his drug is both psychological and physical. He comes to need to see the world through the rose-colored spectacles that the drug provides. His body develops a growing tolerance to heroin, so that as time passes, the victim must increase his doses of the drug if he's to continue to receive some benefit from it. The body so adapts itself to the intake of heroin that his system suffers cruelly when it's deprived of the drug.
Oh, it's very, very bad. my feeling is that I feel weak in my mind and weak physically. I feel like that I have been taken out from the water, the cold water in the winter. I feel cold. I feel very bad inside, and psychologically and mentally, I feel hopeless. I feel that I am doomed. I feel that I have no hope at all, and I feel very bad. Sometimes I even think of suiciding. When I think of myself, that a person like me shouldn't get into this kind of condition, especially and when I was in need of money and I feel very blue and I feel weak. I thought that I have no hope at all, and I thought of committed suicide for 3 times, I should think.
It was in part the moral support of his wife and the thought of the children, he says, that stopped him from taking his life, and in part the help of a friend who paid for him to go to hospital for his first cure in 1958. So dramatic are the sensations of the addict when he can have his drug, in contrast to the despair he experiences when he's deprived of it, that his growing psychological dependence is all too easy to understand.
How did you feel after smoking, in your mind and in your body?
I feel that I am getting better. My feeling is happier. I think that I have hope. I think that I have plan also. I used to smoke very much in the evening. When I was having the drug, my mind kept working. A person must have a plan of himself. I felt that when I was having the drug, I felt that I have to do something tomorrow. I have to go somewhere else and see some of my friends. I have a very good plan. But after the heroin effect has gone away, I feel that I'm hopeless. I just can't do anything.
When you were under the effect of the heroin, the few hours after you'd taken it, did you have any dreams or special experiences which you don't normally have? This is what people always wonder, whether you lie in a sort of dream world.
I should say that it was not dream, it was only imagination. Not daydreaming, not that kind, just imagination. Imagine that I was a perfect person. I was physically fit, and I have hope ahead, and I always have a very good plan. Just like the constructor, they are going to build a very good house, but after they have finished this kind of event, they have nothing at all. They just have nothing, and they were, and I was weak again, feeling like to go back to the drug again. Every time when I was having the drug, I have very good plan, very good hope ahead of me, and I feel easy-minded. I feel physically fit. I feel everything.
Now, would you say that the nature of your addiction, the reason that you were addicted, was for the psychological effect it had on you, or because of the physical relief it gave you? Is it a little of both, or is it?
No, I don't think so. My physical condition before was very, very good. I was a very good addict before. I should say that it was in the psychological side. I was disappointed in love. And after the communists came to China, I lost all my property in the interior. And I lost my money in Hong Kong also.
You didn't lose your money through being addicted?
No, I did business and I was cheated 2 times. Yes, really.
How much money would you say you used to spend on heroin, say in one day?
When I have had money, I used to spend about $30 or $50 a day.
That's a lot of heroin.
Before, that's a lot of heroin before.
Where did the money come from?
Well, I don't have to spend other people's money. I spend only my money. Yes, I have lost most of my money in doing business, but a part of my money in buying heroin.
But what happened when you ran out of money? You must have run out at some stage.
Yes.
I believe you did.
Well, I decreased the amount and asked for help. At first, I had to borrow money from my friends, making out stories that I need the money so very badly. So they are my good friends. They know that I should use the money in a good way. They believe that I was not an addict at that time, so they must let me have some money. I kept on borrowing money for 3 or 4 years.
Are you still in debt to these people?
Yes, I owed about 7 or 8 friends money, and they know the fact now. They said, well, I'm not going to ask you to pay me back the money, but you have to get rid of it. If you need help again, you may come to me, but I'm so ashamed to see them again now.
Do you have any idea how much money you did borrow?
About a few thousand, I think.
A few $1,000s?
Yes.
What about pawning?
Yes, I have pawned all my things now. I think if the things are worth money, an addict must have a way to find money if they feel like going to have the drug. If they have the urge coming on, they must have a way to get money. Some steal, some rob, and some do very bad things, giving the society some kind of trouble. But myself, I just keep on asking friends to help. That's all.
Now, you went into hospital on 3 occasions, 3 separate occasions, for treatment to withdraw you from heroin. You've been out for a year now, and within that time you have again relapsed, though at the moment you say that you have withdrawn for a 4th time. One can understand how it was you became addicted the first time, accidentally. But once having realized what the drug did to you, it is a little surprising that for an intelligent man like yourself, having been cured, you should have gone back to the drug.
I think this is due to the idleness. Without having a job to occupy my time, and another reason for relapse, for my relapse, is that I haven't a suitable job for myself. I feel that I have no hope, I have no job, without any chance getting into the society again. I feel very bad, and I feel inferior. I feel ashamed to see anybody. And that kind of thinking keeps on worrying me all the time. I was offered a job in an automobile branch office. My boss is all right, but not the fellow staff in that office. They gave me such insult that I couldn't stand. They sometimes kept calling my name as a Do Yao, kept talking about me all the time. And the way they talked and the impression on their face gave me such bad feelings that I just couldn't stand it. It was a shame, and I tried to make them understand that a fellow who wants to do right, they shouldn't treat this fellow like this, but they just didn't listen to me anymore. They kept on acting like that. That made me feel very embarrassed at that time. So
He just walked out. The terrible strain on an addict when he's medically cured and trying to get back into society can't be overemphasized. He needs all the help and encouragement that he can get to carry him through this crucial stage. Do Yao, or a fellow traveller, is a nickname applied to addicts and unhappily even to all those who have ever taken to drugs by the Cantonese people. It's a cruel pun, a sarcastic allusion to the follower of the way of strength advocated by Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism. It's an epithet which is repellent and humiliating to the drug addicts, continuing or reformed, at whom it is indiscriminately directed. Within weeks of this experience, perhaps largely because of it, this man was again a Do Yao, a traveller on the heroin trail to mental and physical ruin. Another of the hazards that every addict faces after he is cured is the return to his old environment and the almost inevitable association with his old friends and fellow addicts.
Well, if I go to them, they must ask me to take heroin again. They don't hunt you out, but if they meet you on the street, they must be very politely asking you to go to their place and talk. Mm-hmm. They want to know about your cure, mm-hmm. and know about your story of getting into the hospital. If I promise them to go, well, I think this is the way that sometimes I am relapsed again.
Mm-hmm. What sort of a man are you normally? Are you a happy man, or do you think you're perhaps melancholic? Are you a weak character?
My character is not weak, according to my past. But there is some weakness, I must admit, that I don't know how to refuse friends, whether bad ones or good ones.
Mm. Are you happy?
Yes,
normally?
I'm happy.
You're not given to fits of depression or feeling sorry for yourself by nature?
I feel very sorry for myself. It's very true.
But by nature?
By nature, I'm not sorry for myself. I'm an optimist. Mm-hmm. But I think this kind of weakness, by making friends, is the worst thing mm-hmm. for me.
You can't refuse
I can't
company.
refuse friends. That's whether they are bad or good. Mm-hmm. I can't refuse them.
You like people?
I like people, yes.
What about religion? Are you a religious man?
I was a Christian. I am a Christian, Presbyterian.
And you haven't considered going to a Presbyterian minister for help, for advice and for support, moral support?
Usually I don't go to ask people to help me. It's according to the past, I did get help from friends, but many times when I got help from them, it's only I get the help from them by chance. When I met them on the street, they saw at that time that I was in such a condition, so they willingly offered me help.
Nowadays, an addict can be withdrawn from heroin with a minimum of discomfort and pain by using a synthetic drug, methadone, which itself has narcotic properties, but from which the withdrawal symptoms are less violent and acute than they are from heroin. Withdrawal without medical help of this kind is a nightmare experience, and one which any addict other than a patient under professional medical care must go through if he is to come off the drug. Here in this hut, on this plank bed, in this squatter area, this man withdrew himself from heroin only a month or so ago, and with only the initial help of some pills given him by a Chinese doctor, and with his wife to care for him.
You withdrew here in this hut?
I went to see a doctor. He gave me some kind of pills.
A government doctor?
Not a government doctor, a private doctor. He gave me 8 pills each time. I came back with the pills, and it did give me some relief.
Did he know that you were an addict?
Yes, I told him about that.
And you told him that you wished to withdraw?
Yes. After stopping having the drug, I felt very bad. Well, every day I must have vomiting, stomach ache, physical trembling, my head ached, and I had a kind of bad feeling that I just couldn't describe with words. And I had bad stomach, I wet my bed, and I was like taken out from cold water in the winter time. I thought at that time that I was dead. I was so weak that I couldn't get up. In midnight, I woke up. I should say that I jumped up, having very bad dreams, and all my body was wet, and I had to change my underwear 3 or 4 times every evening, every night, and sweating all over my body. That's I think that was the reason for me to feel that I was so cold, trembling, and I just couldn't think of anything. I didn't even remember my wife and the children's name. I thought I was going to die. I felt very easy to get angry. Anybody made a little bit noise and I got furious. And I thought once or twice that I did try to get up and beat up my children, that I didn't do this before. I seldom beat the children, but I did want to get up and give them a good beating.
Did you do so?
I didn't do so because I was so weak.
But the body jerks. This is so. Is it the muscles, the arms and legs leap up?
Yes,
Uncontrolled?
the muscles trembling inside, and it's.
Did you do so?
I didn't do so because I was so weak.
But the body jerks. This is so. Is it the muscles, the arms and legs leap up?
Yes,
Uncontrolled?
the muscles trembling inside, and it's. I just couldn't control my muscles and my feelings and my thinking. I just couldn't control. I must have this plain, you know. I didn't feel this all the time. I feel only at the time when I was taking the drug before. Suppose I used to take the drug at about 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, when I was withdrawing, I felt very bad at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then in the evening time. At those special time, I felt very bad. And then you feel a little bit better after the jerk and the urge finished.
How long did this last?
This was about for 3 or 4 day and night, and then I became a little bit better. I could have a little bit congee or milk, and then I had to lie on bed for another 3 or 4 days before I could get up.
Looking back now, you feel that it was worth doing?
Sure.
Yes.
I must get rid of it.
If I decided that for any reason I wanted heroin, I wouldn't know where to go. How did you discover where to go? What does one do if one wants heroin?
Well, in Hong Kong now, heroin smoking is so widespread. If you are an addict, an addict like myself, I can get it very easily. Anywhere you go, you just wait on the street during a certain time of a day. After office hour, at 5:30 in the afternoon, or 12:30 or 1 o'clock in noontime, you could find out that there are so many of heroin addicts running to their destination in getting this kind of drug. You just follow them, and you can find the peddler in a certain place. It's quite easy to do that. Every area, every corner, there are peddlers.
But how do you say you see the addicts running to get the drugs? How do I know an addict when I look at him?
Well, you can see by their face. Some of them are so rankly dressed, and physical condition are so bad, you can see very easily by their appearance. Their eyes are dull and yellow colored, and the way they walked, when they have the urge coming on, the way they walk is different, much different to the common people. Like a drunken man, they are weak, walking sideways all the time. Because they are weak at that time, they can't walk normally.
When you got the heroin, when you bought it from the peddler, was he in any way suspicious of you? Or was he quite prepared to give it to anybody who came up to him and asked for it? The little package
personally,
of powder.
I did not get my drug by myself a year ago. But when I became so poor, within these 2 years, I went to buy the drug by myself. At first, they thought that I was a spy. They didn't give me the drug. But afterward, when I got acquainted with them, they gave me the drug without refusing me.
When you got the heroin, when you had bought your little packet of powder, where did you smoke it?
I used to go to my friend's house in the resettlement area to get to those cubic room to smoke it there.
You didn't bring it home?
I seldom bring it home because My wife knows my bad habit, but I wouldn't like to let her see it. Especially the children, I didn't want them to see it with their own eyes.
I didn't want them to see it with their own eyes. And yet certainly the family must become involved one way or another, sooner or later. On one occasion, when the hospital almoner went in search of this man, he wasn't at home. She was led by one of his small daughters to the divan where he was smoking. This image of the child so innocently and so vulnerably leading the way to the place where her father meets his fellow addicts is a frightening one. It contrasts strangely with the criminal world of which his activities have made her almost a part.
What about the fear of the police? Were you not frightened of the law, of being caught by the police?
I was frightened with the law, but I found out later, after going to the peddler for so many times, I found out that in a certain time, in a certain circumstances, I could avoid any interruption of the police force. In the morning time, very early morning time, there should not be any policemen around, and any policeman going to the peddlers and collecting money and collect the tea money, that was the time for me to go to get the peddler.
What you mean is that the police do collect money
Yes, they do. I did see with my own eyes. They go there, they went there with their uniforms on and collect the tea money every day. Some collect, some even get a package of cigarette and leave. Some collect more than $10. Some collect a certain amount in a week's time.
Well, the people you know around here who smoke, is it because they have nothing better to do, that they don't know how to use their spare time, that they are overtired? What would you say?
Well, they get into this kind of bad habit because they have bad friends. I think this is the most important thing. And about sexual reasons, I don't think any addicts get into that kind of bad habit by this kind of reason. Very few of them is by sexual reasons. Some of them are overtired, some of them are getting the habit unaware because they don't know, they just don't understand the damage. And they just smoke it for fun. After they have been addicted, they know very well that they have been ruined, but at that time they don't know how to get rid of it.
I know that it's very difficult to give numbers, but would you say there are a great many people around here who take heroin?
Yes. Well, sometimes I want to give an estimation of this question, and I stayed in the peddlers, near the peddlers place, and see in a limit of time, see how many person I can see who are coming for the drug. So I stayed 1 hour or so near there. I could see more than 500 persons came to get the drug at 1 hour's time.
And this was one area?
Only one peddler.
Only one peddler?
Yes.
Are there a lot of peddlers, or does one peddler have the distribution rights, as it were, in one particular area? This squatter area, for example,
yes.
Are there several peddlers working in competition?
Yes,
or
yes,
is there one?
sometimes, but sometimes there is only one because they have competition and they have means in getting rid of the others.
That sounds very sinister. What do you mean?
That means they want to monopolize the selling of this kind of drug. They think of ways of getting rid of them by biting them out, or by tricks of getting rid of them. Do you understand that?
You meet the peddler.
Yes.
Do you meet anybody behind the peddler? Do you know who the people are who are really organizing these sales, the traffic in heroin?
I don't think I have any idea of those persons. I heard so many things about persons who are behind the peddlers, but I have no proof of giving it. I hear names, but I don't know whether the rumor is true or not. But those that I can see with my eyes, I believe it. Those that I cannot see with my own eyes, if I only hear rumors, some even say that a certain person who is very famous in Hong Kong, he gets rich by selling this kind of drug, but I have no proof to it, so I can't say anything against.
Do you ever feel any fear of the people who sell the drugs? For example, would you be afraid of informing on the people who sold you drugs now that you are reformed?
Personally, I do not afraid of it myself. If my family is not going to be hurt, I don't think I will hesitate in telling anybody and informing any source, because I hate this kind of thing very much now. I think if I inform the police today, I may get trouble tomorrow. Any informer would be struck or would be hurt by this kind of people. Sometimes they get stabbed. Well, any person who is informer to the police, they expect trouble anytime. But for me, I'm not afraid of them by myself. I'm only afraid of them, of their doing anything to my family, that's all.
What about the criminal element among drug addicts? It's a very well-known fact that a very high percentage of criminals in Hong Kong are drug addicts.
Well, when they feel that the urge is coming on, or before the urge is coming on, they must find a way in getting money. If they haven't the money, they will suffer so much that they can't endure the suffer. They must get money beforehand, one way or the other, by stealing, by cheating. An addict must get money to satisfy his needs. If he hasn't the money, he must think of a way of getting it. For me, I make up story to cheat my friend. Luckily, I have so many friends of mine, so I can go from this one to another one. I can carry on for such a long time. I go to my family folks in making up a story that I need the money for the children or such things. I go to my friends and ask him to help me out. Now I don't think I can go to them anymore because I have cheated them so many times.
You personally have never been involved with the law?
No.
But you have been afraid of it?
Sure. If I keep on taking this drug, I must get involved with the law.
Do you think that when your friends in Hong Kong first introduced you to heroin, do you think they did it with any malicious intent?
I don't think so. People always are talking about addicts has malicious attempt in introducing drugs to some other people, but I don't think the addicts have this kind of malicious thinking of introducing the drugs.
It pays the peddler, of course, and the manufacturer and the importer to keep as many people as possible interested in drugs.
Personally, I have no idea of any fact of proving this. They just friends ask friends to have this kind of drug. Always a friend.
Your family became obviously very much involved in the fact that you were smoking.
Yes.
What was the reaction of your wife? I know that when she's seen the almoner, she has from time to time, when she's been discussing her problems, your problems, wept because she felt she couldn't face it.
I am so sorry about her, that she is so patient in giving me courage. Another woman wouldn't have this kind of patience. I should say that she is the best wife. I think she has done her part in supporting me and giving me courage and giving me good advice. She has done her best. Now is the time for me to do my part.
I met your mother the other day, and she was obviously very upset. In fact, it was impossible for me to ask her very much about you because
Yes.
she was weeping. You haven't seen your mother for many months, or your sister and brother.
Yes, I want to stop my bad habits before seeing her. Now I'm planning to go to see her within these 2 weeks.
Do you think they have in any way let you down?
Well, I feel this when I came out from the hospital.
The last time?
No, any time,
Yes.
the 3 times. Their attitude is just the other way around with my feelings. I feel like having a job. I feel I must have a job to occupy my time. They think that they should. They think that they should wait for a little time to see whether I will go back to it or not. So this kind of waiting is really something upset me, because I know at the first time when I was out from the hospital, I stayed with my brother in the same flat. They asked me to stay there and not come back to my wife. And my mother asked the teacher of my brother's school to give me 3 or 4 private students for me to teach. But my sister-in-law stopped this plan. And one day, my first baby, she was so very sick. My wife came to me, asked me to come back. She said she is dying. So I hurried back. And after that, I went back to my brother, and he was so angry with me. He said, you you have to stay here. You have nothing to do with the baby. If she is dying, we are going to take her to the hospital. Well, as a father, how can you stay there and just listen to what people say about your child? You must go to see her if you are a father. So we had a quarrel, and I left.
A lot of people, when you talk about narcotics, say, why stop people taking narcotics? Excessive gambling or excessive drinking is just as bad for a person and for his family as excessive indulgence in heroin.
Yes, but you can get away from gambling if you don't want to. But drug addicts, you can't get away from them. It's like a chaining you up. You are not free. You are a slave to that kind of drug.
Who do you blame for this? Do you blame social conditions? Do you blame society? Do you blame yourself? Do you blame the government for not stopping drugs coming in? Who do you blame?
I blame myself for most of the reasons. I blame myself in the first place. But I think I must have some idea of thinking that the government should do more than they should do now. They are doing now, I mean. They should put more strength in trying to stop this kind of drug traffic.
What kind of strength? There has been a lot of propaganda in the past. In fact, when we were talking a few days ago, I think you said that there was a great deal of propaganda a year or so ago.
Yes.
Is propaganda any good?
The propaganda is good at the time, but they do not continue in doing it. And the words they are posting on the bills, on the words are no good. They should ask for experts in putting forth better words, such as encouraging words, instead of giving insult to the drug addicts. Before, they only say that this drug is damaging your health, is like killing yourself, and an addict is no good for the society, like that. That gives the effects that only those who are not addicts understand, and they know the effect. But those who are addicts hate this kind of propaganda.
What kind of propaganda should you use for addicts?
They should make them understand, give encouragement, and...
But an addict wants nothing but heroin, surely.
I don't agree with you of this. With this, the addicts, many of them want to get rid of their bad habits because they know that they are killing themselves. They want to get rid of them, but they have no way in getting rid of them. Some of them they don't know how. Some of them they have no help.
Well, surely most of the propaganda and advertising against heroin so far has been directed at the people who might take to heroin, and it's them that the government is trying to discourage.
Yes.
And this is very important. Is this sufficiently, is this being done enough?
This is not enough, I think. Those who are not addicts, they don't know how they are going to be addicted the propaganda should put forth trying to explain to them that if they get along with this kind of people for a certain period of time, some need only 10 days, some need only 20-something days, some even need 10 or 20 puffs continuously, they will be involved with addiction.
When you say puffs, you mean cigarettes, don't you?
Yes. And different person has different period, you know. Some longer period, some shorter. Especially those who has such kind of friends. Suppose I have a friend, I am not an addict now. If I get along with this friend, with him for a certain period of time, if I don't refuse the first puff from him, well, I will be another addict at no time, because I have no idea of being addicted such an easy way. Because many innocent people, they take the drug. They think that they are taking it for fun, but well, after that they are interested in taking the drug, that is the most dangerous time for him. So he must understand that taking drug, even one puff, would be danger to their future. So if they understand that, they refuse having the first puff, they have their mind is I mean they have to fortify their mind in refusing the drug. Because I know many people, they haven't that idea. They think that they are having it for fun. So after they get addicted, well, it's too late for them to get out.
Would you say that someone like myself, going into it knowing what it could do, supposing I decided to take it once, experimentally, for the sake of knowing exactly what it feels like, how dangerous would you say that this is to me?
Well, I don't know. I don't think you will get addicted by that way, but if you feel like taking it, if you have a feeling that when you are tired or when you are suppressed, or when you want it by a certain reason, if you think of wanting the drug, well, you are in danger. You are in danger. Sure.
You've 4 times been cured either by professionals or by your own efforts. What do you see in the future for yourself?
I'm only worrying about the family, that's all. I don't worry about myself getting involved with the bad habit again. Even my wife can carry on working like this, and if I can find a job before any accident occurred, I think I'll be all right. I have confidence now because, well, I'd rather die, but not to take the drug again.
When you say if no accident occurs, what do you mean?
I mean, well, suppose the factory, my wife has nothing to do, and she has no income, and I still have no work to do, then what am I going to do in keeping the family? That's my only worrying now. That's why I try my best to stay home for a little while, get strong again, and then I have to go out to the society and find a job for myself.
What is the most difficult stage for anybody coming back? The medical treatment is obviously difficult. It's difficult.
No, I don't think so. The most important thing is after the medical treatment. Different addicts has different difficulties. Mine is that I have to get something to do. I have to see a bright future. As long as there is nothing to haunt me in the future, I feel all right.
Are you frightened of people? Are you frightened of going back to join a group?
I'm not frightened of people. I just feel a little bit inferior in seeing my friends, that's all.
Can you give me any good reason why, since you have been cured 3 times and relapsed 3 times, you might not this time again go back to heroin? Is there any reason why we should be more confident?
Yes, there is one very strong reason for me that if I get back to this bad habit again, well, I have decided that I'm going to end my life this time. I think it will be better for me to do that because if I can't do anything for the family and for the kids, instead of doing them good, I'll do such big harm for them. I think I better end my life if I get back to it again. If I haven't the bad habit, I must have help. I must have something ahead of me. I must have hope. About my several relapses, I don't blame people of their unbelieving. But an addict, they don't understand. An addict learns their lesson by every time when they withdraw. They suffer much more if they have withdrawn one time, and they suffer much more the second time. The third time, especially the 4th time or the 5th time. After having suffered so much, after they experience such suffering, well, I don't think I can have any excuses of getting back to it anymore, because really I have suffered too much physically and mentally. Now my mind is not clear enough now. I feel that I have not sufficient, I cannot think properly now. Mentally, it's still sick. Sometimes, when I think of writing a letter, I tears so many papers away before finishing a very simple letter now. If I'm going back to it again, I don't think I can live long, because my physical condition is failing. I understand myself. I can see, my wife can even see that my physical condition is failed a lot. After learning this kind of lesson, I determined not to get back to it again. In fact, I don't think I have any hope, both mentally or physically, of lasting any longer than 3 or 4 years if I am not going to get rid of it. After a person is addicted, he has not even the sexual desire, he has nothing to think about except the drugs. He doesn't want to go to the pictures. He doesn't want to clean them himself. He doesn't want to take the family and go to the outskirts of the city to enjoy their life. He doesn't want anything except the drug. This is very true.
Nothing but heroin.
Nothing but heroin. And he is finished. How can I stay on such a kind of life in the future, Miss Pat?
That was The Hollow Dream, the story of one man's addiction to heroin as he told it to Patricia Penn in Hong Kong.